Hi, welcome back. My name is Sam Hendrick and I work for Bentley Systems. You're in the fourth in a series of 6 videos which are an introduction to 3D using MicroStation Connect Edition. In this video, we're going to have 2 different sections. First section is going to be on how do we take an alignment and create layout sheets. Now you may think, where's the 3D part of that? The topo, of course. So we're going to be using named boundaries to generate all of our layout sheets. Second part is going to be, we're going to take a 3D model of an underground vault, and then we're going to create a detail sheet. We're going to do top view and front view and sectioned ISO, and then we're going to have them side by side. And we're going to edit the 3D model, and you're going to see the 2D detail sheet automatically update. It's going to be awesome. It's one of my personal favorites. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just get right into it. In this exercise, we're going to be using a file that unfortunately doesn't ship with the example workspace. It's called roadway plans. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Now when the file opens up, you'll see that this is a pretty typical civil engineering drawing, an alignment. I have my alignment going from left to right in this situation. My job is to create plan sheets for this alignment. So how this all ties in with 3D, because that's the title of these episodes, the topo file in the background happens to be 3D. And to illustrate that, what I'm going to do is move my cursor over one of those elements in the topo, press and hold the right button on my mouse, and I'll see an option to exchange. That will close my active file and open up the reference file. When I do that, you'll see I'm in the topo file. And just to illustrate, I'll go ahead and rotate my view, and you can see the contours relatively flat. They're still 3D. So now I'll go back using the model previous icon in the bottom left corner. This takes me back to my file. Now before I get started, to help illustrate actually what's going on behind the scenes, I'm going to open up a couple of dialog boxes. The first one is going to be the Explorer window. So on my keyboard, I'll tap the space bar, I'll go to Primary, and then I'll choose Explorer. Now the reason I'm opening this up is part of this exercise is going to be demonstrating how to do sheet index. So on the left-hand side, you can see I've got a sheet index tab, and we'll see that get populated later on. The next dialog I'm going to open up is my models dialog. I'm going to hit the space bar again, go back to primary, and I'm going to select models right there. Now the reason I'm opening this up is part of what I'm going to be doing is creating sheet models, and these sheet models, and for this example, will be stored in this file. So I wanted you to see currently there's only one model. It's called roadway design. When I'm done, I'm going to have an additional group of sheet models below. So now I've got those 2 dialogues open. Now we can go ahead and get started. On our view 1 across the top, you're going to see a red dot. This is going to be the start of our sheets. I've zoomed in view number 2 on that red dot so we can get a close-up of the area that we're going to start from. In view 1 on the right side, we have another red dot. And again, I've zoomed in on that red dot in view number 3 because, again, I want to have a close-up view when I choose the start and the end point. The last dialog I'm going to open up, I'm on my drawing workflow across the top. My tab is set to view. And I see here place boundary. I'm going to open the place boundary dialog, click in the icon there, and you can see the place boundary dialog. There is an icon, it's the same icon that's on the ribbon, place name boundary. I'm going to go ahead and select that. On my tool settings window, one of the methods I have, which I'm going to use, is by length. You can also choose some of the other ones, place a boundary by 2 points, or you can also do it by element if you already have clip frames in your file that you've placed. The method we're going to use is by length. And when I choose that, one of the other options, matter of fact, only option is I'll array a name boundary along a path, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Now, I'm going to be choosing the alignment, and the alignment happens to be a complex chain. Now, this is required for this to work. If your alignment happens to be broken into arcs and lines, you will have to use the Create Complex Chain tool to make it into a single element. Now on the tool settings window, continuing down where it says length, I've set it to 750 feet. This is how much of my project I want to display on my sheet from left to right, and then offset left and right below. That's how far off my alignment top and bottom, if you will, that I want to clip. Basically, that's the boundaries of my named boundary. Near the bottom, you'll see overlap. What I'm doing is setting it to 50 feet. That means each one of my clip frames or named boundaries will overlap each other 50 feet. That will give me room in between them if I wanted to put my match line. Below that is boundary chords. I'll demonstrate what this is. It's better visually explained, but this is when I go along my alignment as I hit a curve, does the boundary adjust to mimic the curve, and how many chords do I want along that? So I'm going to leave that set to 1. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. At the bottom, there's create drawing, and that's what I want to do. I wanted to create a drawing, so I'm going to leave that checked. Now, at this point, what it's asking me to do is pick a start point on my alignment and an end point. So I'm going to go to view number 2, and my alignment is right here. I'm going to select it by doing a data, a left click. Then it wants to know the endpoint. I'm going to move my cursor into view number 3, where I've got a red circle indicating near the endpoint, and I'm going to pick the endpoint there. Now, the Create Drawing dialog opens up, again, because I've selected Create Drawing. I want to get back and talk about the boundary chords. I'm going to zoom in on one of these boundaries, and these red boxes that you're seeing, those are the boundaries, named boundaries. As I zoom in on this, you'll notice this particular boundary goes from left to right. It's a straight line there. That's boundary chords of 1. If I would have set that to something like 10, you would see more of an arc along the bottom mimicking the alignment. So I wanted to explain what that was. Now, on the Create Drawing dialog, there's a drawing seed. Now, this does require setup, so you'll have to have a drawing seed in a DGN-lib file that MicroStation's told to look at. This is something generally a CAD manager would set up. So in this example, I've got one that's called Plan Sheet Only. I'm going to select it. Now, when I choose that, down here, I've got the option to create a sheet model, and that's what I'm going to be demonstrating. Below that is the seed model. Now, this is set by my drawing seed up above, and this is a DGN-lib. And then I have options down here for drawing boundary. Before I do that, I want to show you here where it says file name. This is going to be the location. Where are these sheet models going to go? I have it set to active file, and as I mentioned before, they're going to show up in my models dialog, but you have a choice to put them in a different DGN file. Now, this isn't a separate DGN per sheet model. This is putting all the sheet models in a different DGN file. So in this case, I'm going to do active file, and my boundary, drawing boundary down here, I'm going to change this to Plan Sheet Only. Again, this is all part of the seed file stored in the DGN-lib. Below this is my detail scale, and I'm going to set this to 1 inch equals 50. That's my desired scale. And then I've got a checkbox to add to sheet index. This is something I wanted to demonstrate. On the left side, there was the Sheet Index tab on the Explorer. I'm going to check Add to Sheet Index, and what this is going to do is index all of my sheet models that are created, and you'll see on the left under Sheet Index tab, they'll be populated there. We'll take a look at that last. The last option is Open Model, and this will open the last model it creates. So now we've covered all the topics. Now it's time to see the magic. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to wait for it to process. It's going to create the sheet models, and then it's going to put me in the last sheet model it created. And there we go. You can see in my models dialog all of the sheet models that were created by this process. And right now my active sheet model is Plan-29. And I'm going to go ahead and close my models dialog box here for the moment. And I'm going to look at my title block in the bottom right corner. I'm going to zoom in on that. You'll notice it says sheet 30 of 30. This is part of the sheet indexing process. So now I'm going to go back to the original model. So I'm going to open up my models dialog again, spacebar, primary, models. Scroll to the top. There's my original design model. I'm going to go ahead and double click. This will put me back into my original model, and I'll zoom out a little bit here. And now I have basically all of those sheet models. On my screen, you're going to see these little icons. They're markers. And if I zoom in, if I hover my cursor over one of these markers, you're going to see a little pop-up window. You can see it tells me which plan sheet this is, and it gives me the option to open that plan sheet too. So this is kind of like a navigational tool, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and this is going to take me to that sheet model. I'm going to go back to my previous model by clicking the previous model icon in the bottom left corner. This takes me back here. Now I'm going to go ahead and close my boundaries dialog, And then on the left-hand side under the sheet index, I told you we're going to take a look at that last. If I click to expand this, what you're going to see basically is an index of all of those sheets. And I have two options here. I can place this as a table, insert this in one of my sheets, or I can also use this to send it to the print organizer in MicroStation. So this is using the name boundaries and creating sheets from that. Hope you enjoyed this part. Oh, sorry to interrupt you there. Hopefully you enjoyed that prior section here, but I want to prep you for the next section, that 2D detail sheet from a 3D vault. Up behind me, you're going to see the final product. In view 1, you're going to see the 3D model of the vault. In view 2, you're going to see the sheet model that was created from the 3D model. And when we make changes to the 3D model, you're going to see that it changes the 2D detail sheet. It's awesome. You're going to love it. It's one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do here is create a 2D sheet model driven by a 3D model. Now the file we're going to open up, again, unfortunately, this doesn't ship with the example files. Vault detail is what I'm opening. I'm going to click and open that. Now what we start off with is our 3D model. As I move it around here, you can see it's a 3D model of a vault. Now I'm going to open a dialog box. It's the models dialog box, and I'm going to do this because you're going to see a model get created in a bit. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to go to primary, and I'm going to choose models. This will open our models dialog. Now you'll notice that there's only one model in here right now. It's called default. I'm going to be creating a top view and putting it in a 2D sheet model. In order for me to do that, I'm going to need to rotate my view. Now in order for me to do a top view, I'm going to need to look at my model from the front. So I'm going to do a shift, right click, my view controls show up. I'm going to go to front. Here's my front view. Now the tools I want to work with are in the drawing tools. So I'm going to go to the workflow for drawing. I'm going to go to the tab called Annotate, and there's going to be detailing. Now the detail I want to do here, it's called Plan Callout, so I'm going to select this. On the Tool Settings window, I've got a drawing seed. Again, that will require a CAD manager or somebody to set this up, and I've got checked Create Drawing. So I'm going to be looking at this from the top down, so I'm going to start my callout here by doing a left click at Data, and I'm going to go across to the right, how far I want, second data, and then it wants to know the direction. I can go up or down, and this makes sense to go down, so I'm going to do a third data. Now I get the create drawing. Now this is the name of the sheet model that's going to get created, so I'm going to call this detail sheet. Now when I click OK in a moment, you're going to see a model get created down here. Now moving down below here, you're going to see there's a dgenlib. That's the required setup for you. Down below that, there's sheets. Now right now there's only new because we have no sheet model. Once we create one, that'll become an option. Now down below this is our scale, so I'm going to change this to 3/8 right there. And then below that is visible edges, cached versus dynamic. Cached means that you will have to update manually the 2D sheet model. When the 3D model changes, dynamic means it'll dynamically update. So I'm going to choose that, and I've got an option to open the model, and that's checked. When I click OK, a new model will be created and it'll become the active model. There's my plan view. I'm going to move this. This is a reference file. I'm going to do this by pressing and holding the right button on the element. You're going to see context menu appear. There's move reference. So I'm going to go ahead and move this up over here like this. There's my detail, first detail placed in. Now I'm going to place in a section detail next. So I'm going to go back to my default model by double clicking on it. I'm going to go ahead and change to a top view. So I'm going to shift right click and go to top view. The tool I'm going to use now is called Section Callout. So I'm going to select this. On the Tool Settings window, I've got the same options there. A drawing seed, I'm going to use Section English Sheet Only. And I'm going to also say Create Drawing. Now this isn't a plan view, this is a section cut. So I'm going to start my section cut here by doing a left click, and I'm going to move my cursor to the side. Now you can see I can section this any way I want, but I want to do a step or a jog in here. So on the status bar in the bottom left, it says Control to define step. I'm going to hold the Control key down, I'm going to left click, and now my step is placed. I let go of the Control key. Now I'm going to move my cursor over here. You can see the step or the jog appearing. I'm going to do a third data, and then I'm going to tell it how much of the model I want to see. I'm going to go to the extents, and then I get the create drawing. Now this is going to be a section. I come down below. You can see here where it says sheet. I now have an option because there's a sheet model. If I selected new, it would create a new sheet model. In this case, I want to add it to a sheet model. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose the 3/8 scale, and I'm going to change this to dynamic, and I'm going to click OK. And you can see that is now added to the sheet detail. Again, it's a reference file, so I'm going to go ahead and move it. I'm going to move it with this, and I'm going to move it by this point here, data. Now it wants to know where to put it. I'm going to place it in relationship to this model, moving my cursor over that element in the reference file. The yellow X, AccuSnap, appears. To get the AccuDraw compass there, I press the letter O. It repositions my compass origin. Now I'm going to move it straight down, data, reset. Then I'm going to unselect it. Now you'll notice that there's a concrete pattern showing up there. That is accomplished by element templates. Now the last thing I'm going to do here is put in a isometric cut. So I'm going to go back to my default model. I'm going to rotate the view, and I'm going to go to my clip volumes toolbox. Now this is located on the view controls, open as a toolbox. I'm going to click the first icon, clip volume, tool settings window, section clip tools is selected, and I'm going to be clipping it from the front. And the drawing seed is going to be a detail 3D English. I data, left click in the view, you'll see my clip volume appears. Now, what I want to do is put in a jog or a step in here. So I'm going to, again, move my cursor over the clip boundary element, press and hold the right button. The context menu knows what you've selected, and there's an option there to create a step. So I'm going to select it. Now, where that step is going to be, I want to position it relative to the midpoint of the clip volume element. So I move my cursor here on my keyboard. I want to get the AccuDraw compass to appear. I hit the letter O. The compass appears. Now I want to rotate the compass to the design file's top orientation. So I hit T. Now my compass is rotated to the top. Now I want the step to appear relative to the origin to the right 3 feet. So I'm going to move my cursor along this axis. I type in 3. And then I data, and now you can see I've got a step 3 feet over relative to that point. And I'm just going to move it out approximately this far and do another data. Now I've got my step in there, and this step can be edited. I can come back here and I can click on this, and I can move that step dynamically if I wanted to and adjust it to the way I want. Now I'm going to add this to my sheet model, but I'm going to do it a little bit different way. I'm going to create a saved view. I'm going to open up my saved view dialog. So I'm going to go to the View tab. I'm going to go to Saved Views, and I'm going to click on that icon. This opens it up. Now you'll notice there's already 2 saved views there. These were created by the detailing tools. I'm going to create my own saved view. So I'm going to click here on my tool settings window. I get the option to give it a name. I'm going to call this ISO, and I have an option to create a drawing. I don't want to do that, but I do want to make this associative. Now the method I want to choose is going to be 2 points. Now I could do it from view, but 2 points, I get to kind of define the area I want to save. So I'm going to do 2 points. I'm going to pick a point down here, data, left click, move my cursor up. Basically it's a rectangle, do a second data. Now I've got a saved view. Now how do I get that into my detail sheet? I'm going to double click on the model there, making it the active model. Now this is one DGN. I have 2 different models. The saved views are shared between them. I'm going to take the ISO and I'm just going to drag and drop it into my file. Comes up, I have 2 choices, recommended or interactive. I'm going to choose interactive, and I'll mention why in a moment. I'm going to click OK. Now this should look familiar. This is your attached reference file dialog. Now the reason I chose interactive was because I need to change my scale to 3/8, and I want to change my visible edges from cached to dynamic. And then I'm going to click OK, and I'm just attaching a reference file. I'm going to put this in the upper right corner, and there it is. So I've got a couple of details. Now we're going to see the fun part. How does the 3D model drive the changes in the 2D sheet? We're going to go back to our default model, going to double click on it, close our Save View dialog and our clip volume. We don't need those. In this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how changing the 3D model drives the 2D sheet detail. Now to do that and to see them simultaneously, we're going to need to open up a second view. So I'm going to go to my view number 2 here. I'm going to tile my views. I'm already in the View tab. So now both views are looking at the same model. I'm going to change view number 2 to look at the detail sheet model. I'm going to do that by going to my view attributes. Now I want to make sure I'm doing this for view 2. Down here at the bottom, there's view setup. I'm going to change this for view number 2 to, instead of looking at default model, look at the detail sheet. There he is. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to fit. So now what you're seeing here is the detail sheet on the right in view 2, and on the left you're seeing your 3D model. Now in order to make changes to our 3D model, we need to turn off our clip volume. So I'm going to left click in view number 2 to make that the active model. I'm going to go to my view attributes, and again I'm doing this for view 1. I'm going to turn off clip volume, And so I can see all of the model. Now, what my goal is going to be here, the changes I'm going to make is going to be the hole in the back here. So if I select the model, you can see all these icons appear. These icons allow me to edit those unique individual features. So I'm going to zoom in, and this icon is associated to the hole that's through the vault. So I'm going to left click on it, and when I do that, I get handles or ways to manipulate that hole through the solid. What I'm going to do is move that hole to the right, and I'm going to move it a distance of 2.5 feet. So I'm going to click on the center icon. AccuDraw will appear on the screen, and it's going to allow me to make edits very easily. So I'm going to move my cursor to the right. I'm going to type in 2.5 feet, and I'm going to do a data. But before I do that, in view 2, where we see the sheet model, what I want you to do is watch the hole that's in the back. Now that's visible basically in all 3 details. So when I do a data, the hole moved here, here, and here. Now I'm going to change the size of the hole. So I'm going to deselect and then reselect. And then I'm going to see the icons again. This time, instead of me left clicking on this and moving the hole or adjusting it, I'm going to press and hold the right button on the icon. I get the option to edit the feature. I'm going to select this, and you can see the diameter of that is 1.5 feet or 1 foot 6 inches. I'm going to change this to 2.5 feet. So I'm going to make it 2.5. And when I click OK, watch in the second view the diameter change. So you see how that changed? So this is using a 3D model, creating a 2D detail sheet, and then driving the changes from the 3D model. Hopefully this will inspire you to start modeling in 3D and create your detail sheets.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.